In today's class, we will focus on the nervous system of Calotes, and we'll try to understand the different parts of the nervous system. Now, we understand that the nervous system of Calotes consists of three parts, that is the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and autonomic nervous system. And the central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system consists of the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves, and the autonomic consists of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Now let us get started with the brain. The brain consists of three parts, right? The forebrain, midbrain, and the hindbrain. So the forebrain, or the prosencephalon, it is made up of olfactory lobes, cerebral hemispheres, and corpora striata. Now let us have a look at the brain, and here you can see the dorsal and the ventral views. Now let me focus on the first part, that is the olfactory lobes. Now here, in case of the olfactory lobes of Calotes, you find that these are two in number, but they are very reduced as compared to the frog, and they are borne on these stalks, which are called as the olfactory peduncles, right? And each olfactory lobe bears a cavity inside a ventricle, which is called as a rhinocele. The olfactory lobes lead to the cerebral hemisphere, and the cerebral hemisphere is made up of two lobes, which are very big in comparison to the olfactory lobes. On the dorsal side, these lobes have a fissure, and inside they have a cavity which is called as the paracele. So you also find that the cerebral hemispheres have the corpora striata. Now, corpora striata basically are the thickenings of the ventricle, and these are interconnected by the commissure. So voluntary actions like eating, attacking the prey, etc. are taken care of by the cerebral hemispheres. Next part is the diencephalon. So diencephalon has a cavity called as the diocele, and it also has the floor of the ventricle is called as the hypothalamus, and the roof is very thin in compared to the hypothalamus, and that is called as the epithalamus. So here you find that on the dorsal side the pineal stalk is present. On the ventral side you find the pituitary is present. Thus this part, that is the diencephalon, helps in controlling the hormonal actions of the body. The next part of the body of the brain is the midbrain. So the midbrain consists of two optic lobes, and these are also called as a corpora bigemina, and they have a cavity inside which is the optocele. The optic lobes make a connection with the underlying cerebellum, and this cavity is called as this passage is called as the iter. And cross connections of nerve fibers, or the crura cerebri, are present here. And optic lobes are concerned with the sight. Next part is the cerebellum, which is in form of a little small transverse patch, and this also has a ventricle inside, and is concerned with the balance and the equilibrium. Next is the medulla oblongata, which stretches back as the spinal cord. So the medulla oblongata pierces through the foramen magnum of the skull and emerges out as the spinal cord. And this has a cavity inside which is known as the metacele, and also controls the involuntary actions like the respiration, heartbeat, etc. Next is, let's go over to the spinal cord. So in the spinal cord we will be looking at the various issues. Now here in the case of the spinal cord, we can see the spinal cord is covered by means of two coverings. One is the outer dura mater and the inner pia mater, and we find the presence of the grooves, the dorsal groove and the ventral groove. Ventral groove is much more deeper than the dorsal groove, and two septa are present, that is the dorsal septum and the ventral septum. Apart from this, there is the inner area of the spinal cord has a A-shaped structure, which is also called as the gray matter, because it contains the cells and the nuclei and looks a little darker in shade as compared to the outside white matter. So the gray matter has two pointed edges on the dorsal side. These are referred to as the horns, and thus the same kind of projections are present on the ventral side, and these are called as the ventral horns. A central canal or the ependymal, the central canal is lined by the ependymal cells. So we do understand what the subdural and the epidural space is, right? So between the pia mater and the dura mater, the space is referred to as the subdural, and the space outer to the dura mater is referred to as the epidural space. Both these spaces are filled up by the cerebrospinal fluid, which protects it from the mechanical shocks. Next, the commissures are the connections which connect the right and left side of the brain, and we also find that certain nerves are given off from the spinal cord, and these are the spinal nerves. So if you see here, the spinal nerves are in 16 pairs, and the cranial nerves which are given off from the brain are in about 12 pairs. So this is about the spinal cord and the spinal nerves, and we must just understand one thing, that is the extra pairs of cranial nerves are the accessory spinal and hypoglossal. And so the point which we need to remember is the olfactory lobes are very much reduced, and they are born on the olfactory peduncles or the stalks, and the cranial nerves are 12 pairs and the spinal nerves are in 16 pairs. Otherwise, the other parts of the nervous system are just like that present in the frog. And next, we come to the last part of the nervous system, that is the autonomic nervous system, which consists of the sympathetic nervous system, which consists of the cords which run along the spinal cord, and these sympathetic cords give out the these sympathetic nerves, and the parasympathetic nervous system consists of the parasympathetic ganglia and the parasympathetic nerves, which innervate the various parts of the viscera. Now basically this sympathetic nervous system controls the fight or flight response when an animal is under stress. So the heartbeat, respiratory rate, etc. is increased. But the parasympathetic nervous system works in antagonistically to the sympathetic nervous system, and thus after a period of stress, the heartbeat or respiratory rate that has increased is brought back to the normal condition. So this is all about the nervous system of Calotes, which is very much in similarity to that of the frog, but the only 3 points you have to remember extra. One is the presence of reduced olfactory lobes, which are born on olfactory peduncles. Second is 12 pairs of cranial nerves are present, and 16 pairs of spinal nerves are present in Calotes.